Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to today's video, the Eyeshadow Palette 5000 tag. So if you guys are new here, my name is Stacy. I feature unfiltered makeup opinions and honest reviews, and today we are going to be doing the Eyeshadow Palette Tag 5000. And this tag was started by Chic Geek Makeup, and they came up with the Eyeshadow Palette 5000 tag. Let's get into this video. All of the questions are going to be linked down below, and if I have any videos that correspond with these eyeshadow palettes that I'm talking about, I will try and link those as well for y'all. So this is a 10 question eyeshadow palette tag. 10 questions. 10 questions. The first one is a palette you wore on a special occasion. What is an eyeshadow palette that I wore on a special occasion? And I would definitely have to say it was the Urban Decay Naked one. And this eyeshadow palette I did not purchase when it originally came out. I don't even know like that. I think that was like early college days for me when it first came out, but I actually purchased the original Naked palette when they were discontinuing it and bringing about the Naked Reloaded palette. So this is when it was about 50% off. I purchased it for literally like $20, and I ended up using the original Naked palette for my wedding eyeshadow look. That was my special occasion. I wore it for my wedding, the day that I got married, and I actually haven't really been using it much. I just keep this in my collection because it is one of those like OG discontinued staple eyeshadow palettes. I actually love this eyeshadow story a lot better than the one that they reloaded and like redid. This color story is so much better than the reloaded palette because it has warms and it has those cool tones in here. It has not only like some deeper, darker blues, but it also has some blacks, and then it also has some cooler browns in here, which is more what I lean into. And the Naked Reloaded palette did not have shades like that, so I didn't really enjoy the Naked Reloaded. But this one for wedding makeup was like, it was perfect. It was my go-to wedding makeup look. And like I said, I have not used this palette actually since I got married because it was discontinued, and I knew that like I didn't want to use it knowing that I wouldn't be able to repurchase it at any point. So now it just sits in my drawers, and it's one of those like collector's edition palettes that I have. Question number 2, what is a palette that I love that is repetitive? And I had to dip into, this is again another discontinued palette, but I really just had to mention this one because while I love it, I do feel like it is quite repetitive, and that would be the Textured Neutrals Volume 1 from Tati Beauty. Obviously, this is the only textured neutrals palette that she came out with. She never came out with the other ones because the brand no longer exists. But mostly my feeling on this palette is I love that it's separated into rows. I love that you have these different like textures in the eyeshadows. Like you have a matte, you have a sequin, you have a glitter, and then you also have a foil formula. My biggest thing with this palette is that the sequin row and the matte row are pretty much the same thing. And sequin shadows have like a micro glitter in them. So it's like a matte shadow with like some micro glitters in it that make it like sparkly. But at the end of the day, like when you blend out a micro glitter on your eye, it literally just looks matte. So that to me is very repetitive of this palette. It does have some great qualities in it, especially how it's like the color story is laid out. The full size mirror in that is like so stunning. The glitters are, they were at the time that they came out, were absolutely stunning, and you didn't need a glitter glue, so to speak. I did do a couple of wear tests on this palette. The glitter formula was really beautiful. Again, this palette is, I want to say, at least 3 years old, if not 4 years old, so I don't dip into it anymore. It's kind of one of those like collector's edition. I keep the Textured Neutrals Volume 1 just as a reference point, and it is a beautiful palette, but it is very repetitive with those, especially those matte shades. Like I could have done without the sequins in this palette. I think if you had just done a matte row, a foiled row, and then a glitter row, I probably would have been all game for it. At the end of the day, those sequin shades that are like a matte with the sequin, they blend out to look wholly matte, and like you can't tell a difference. Number 3, a palette that you got your money's worth out of. And I'm really surprised that I'm pulling this one out, but I feel like I really did get my money's worth out of this one, and it would have to be the Natasha Denona Yucca palette. I did 3 videos on my channel with this palette, and I used it so many times during the month of like June and through July. And I literally was just dipping into this palette every single day. It's a grungy green neutral color story, and I love the like grungy feel to it, but then I also love like the pop of chartreuse over here, and I also love the pop of like teals. And I think it's a really well like curated grungy green palette. Now, if you're not a grungy green person, you're probably not going to like this palette, but I feel like I got my money's worth out of it solely because I used it so much. And this is literally like look how well loved this palette is. Like I loved on this palette for months and months and months, and I still love it, and I really feel like I got my money's worth out of this palette. It's just so beautiful. Number 4, a palette. A palette that was an amazing deal, and I have to take out this one. This is the Moira Cosmetics. What is it? It is the Time to Shine eyeshadow palette. This is less than $20. And the mattes in here are so buttery. And I've literally been dipping into this shade called Spice because it's like the perfect like eyeshadow glitter topper. Like actually I'm going to put some on. But you can see it is the perfect glitter topper on your eyeshadow. And it is absolutely just, it amps up any eyeshadow look. And this eyeshadow palette, it actually performs, I want to say, just as well, if not better, than some Anastasia Beverly Hills palettes. It performs just as well as like my Natasha Denona Yucca palette. It has such a blendable, beautiful formula. The mattes are so buttery and they blend out so beautifully. I found myself like digging into this one quite a bit, and this is literally right around the $20 price point. And you can buy it on Moira Cosmetics. They are an online brand. They are cruelty free as well. And this is totally the one that has like totally worth the price. Question number 5, what is a quad that you wish was a larger palette? And I was thinking back to, I have a lot of palettes and I'm like, I really wish that that was a bigger palette. I really wish that there was more to it. And I definitely have to say, like, this technically isn't a palette, but it's a 3-pan, it's the Kaja bento box. And I really wish that some of these came in like an actual eyeshadow palette where they expanded on the color story. Like this one is called Orange Blossom and it has 3 shades in here. My favorite one is the topper shade. This one is just absolutely stunning. But I really feel like they could have expanded on the color story of like the browns, the peaches, and they could have made a really beautiful like iridescent, like sparkly, fuller eyeshadow palette. I really feel like this could have been made into something bigger, and I wish that they would kind of expand on this concept of like Orange Blossom and like really bring it to life with like a larger eyeshadow palette with the same quality that these shadows are. They're just so beautiful. They are like super buttery, and they, depending on how you apply it, like it can be very reflective or it can be just like an eyeshadow topper. In this case, the first shade is pretty much an eyeshadow topper, but this one is definitely one of those like one and done shadows that you can place on your lid because it has that like orangey peach undertone, and you can just place this all over your lid. And it is so, so pretty. And then the bottom shade is a brown shade, and this one I really feel like should have had like a better companion with it, or this one should have been quite possibly not a shimmer formula, but it should have been like a matte formula so that you could pair some of those like lighter colors on top of it, because with the shimmers in it and with it being kind of like a foil but also kind of like a shimmer formula, for somebody with super light skin, it just doesn't look well on light skin at all. But I wish that they would expand on this concept. Maybe. Okay, number 6. You love the quality of the eyeshadow, but you hate the packaging. And I really feel like I should have picked like another one because I've already mentioned this palette in this video, but it would definitely have to be the Moira. Like, look how big. This is like a book. It is thick, it is huge, it is like chunky, it is, I love the quality of the shadows, but I think their packaging on this is just absolutely like, I don't like it. I don't know if they were going for a book theme or not, but I feel like they could have definitely saved me some space in my makeup drawer by making this at least a little bit thinner. I've seen so many people do so many different packaging, so many different packaging. And I feel like this could have been just a little bit thinner because this is literally just like it takes up almost half my face. I think the quality, like I said, is amazing, but the packaging is so bulky. Question number 7 slash like, what is your dream palette? Show it in singles. And I had to mention and bring up all of my Unhidden Beauty palettes. Unhidden Beauty is a custom tailored makeup brand. And what you can do is head over to their site. You can create your own custom palette with eyeshadow singles, rename the singles to any name that you want it to be. You can decorate the palette cover. You can literally customize the eyeshadow palette down to everything that you put into it. And honestly, to me, like if you look at my Unhidden Beauty palettes, those are some of my like custom curated. I love these palettes. They are Color Stories dream palettes that I love, they are dream palettes of mine. And Unhidden Beauty is like the best place to be able to do that. I do have a full video of Unhidden Beauty on my channel. I love the quality of the Unhidden Beauty eyeshadows. They're very pigmented, blendable. The foils are very, very like reflective and opaque. And then they have a glitter formula that is like beyond anything that you have ever seen. Actually, it rivals the Tati Beauty Texture Neutrals Volume 1 formulation. It is actually better than that formulation. It is so good. It's very, very opaque when it goes on. It's very glittery. So I do have some looks with the eyeshadow palettes that I have created up on my channel, so I will try and link those in the description box down below so you guys can see that. But Unhidden Beauty is like the best place for you to be able to build out your dream fantasy palette with singles, and I've done that like several times. Number 8, what are some palettes that you like to combine together? And I definitely had to pull out this one because I love the Donna Fall palette from It's Belle Cosmetics. This is a multi-chrome, duochrome foil eyeshadow palette. I love pairing this with either a cool tone neutral eyeshadow palette or a warmer tone neutral eyeshadow palette because it has these gorgeous foils in it and it reflects literally the changing of seasons and the changing of leaf colors during the when fall is coming about. And I love the duochrome formula from It's Belle Cosmetics. Like these are just so stunning, so pigmented, and they go on your eyes just so beautifully. I do have some tutorials of this eyeshadow palette as well, but this is this is like a go-to fall eyeshadow palette for me. I grab it every year because it has these duochromes and multichromes in it that really just like amp up my makeup game. And I like to pair it with some neutral eyeshadow palettes that I have. Okay, what is an eyeshadow palette that you wish was smaller? And I just recently did a review of the Hogwarts collection from Shein, and I was like, I love how curated, and like it was 16 shades all together, but they were in each individual packaging, so like per house of Hogwarts. And I was like, compared to the ColourPop Harry Potter palette, like I like the concept of these being more curated and smaller. And honestly, this palette is what came to mind when I was like, I wish it was smaller. I wish it was more curated because I feel like this is kind of all over the place and it's not really reflective. It is in a way reflective of Harry Potter, but I also feel like the eyeshadow story has been seen quite a bit. And honestly, they just came out with the Naruto palette, and the Naruto palette is very, very similar to this palette. But I really wish this eyeshadow palette was a little bit more curated down. You have 4 houses, so why not do 16 shades and then literally do a row per shade or per house? And that would have made me a lot happier. And also, like, if they had curated this palette to be a little bit more like the shades play well together, not only within the house, but also like across the board. And I wish that they would have really curated this palette down a lot more. I feel like this looks a lot like some of the other palettes that they have come out with. Yes, the packaging is great, but I really wish that it was smaller. Like this is one that I really don't reach into because it is so, like this is huge. This is like a book. What is an eyeshadow palette that you wish had a matching face palette? And I grabbed a couple because I had 2. I was like, oh, that would have been an awesome face. Like I wish it had come with an awesome face palette. So the first one that came to mind was the Rose Quartz palette from Huda Beauty. And I love this palette. I love the mauvey pinky tones in here. I love the duochromes in here, the iridescence. I love the purple. And I really feel like Huda could have released like a highlight slash blush palette that would have like paired really, really well with this. And she could have played on the theme of like some of those iridescent shades and made some like duochrome, multi-chrome highlights. She could have made some really beautiful blushes. She could have even like, she could have created such a beautiful face palette to go with the rose quartz palette. I'm imagining the packaging being really, really similar to this, but the blushes would have been just so beautiful and so stunning. And if she had played on like the iridescence of the quartz, she could have had some really beautiful highlights as well. And I'm just like, I really wish that she would have come up with something to go along with it, and she did not. So there you have it, my eyeshadow palette tag 5000. This was inspired by Angelica Nyqvist and Chic Geek Makeup. I will leave their videos linked down below in the description box, and then you guys can also see some of the other videos that people have made with the eyeshadow palette tag 5000. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you consider subscribing so you can stay tuned for more. Bye!